Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to my channel. This is the Yes Yet podcast, and I am your host, Antonio Smith. And in this podcast, we will be talking about political subjects of the day. We'll give it to you from the straight facts perspective, maybe lean a little more conservative than liberal, but that's what I'm here for. I'm here to bring you what's going on in the world of politics and news and social media on a daily basis. So today, for our first subject, we have a Miss Letitia James and how pathetic she is and how she has made it her mission to try to take down our great president of the United States, Donald Trump. And in my opinion, she's the one to initially have the first Trump derangement syndrome symptoms showed in public by a big time official politician. As you know, she won a $350 million judgment against the president in a civil/criminal business case. I really don't understand how it's like that, but I'll look into it and maybe get back to that later if necessary. But for right now, she got the judgment against the president. She was going hardcore in on him to try to take his assets before he became president. And then she was hard and fast about what she could still do once he won re-election. She was part of the political attack of using the system to try to take down one man, Donald Trump, and it failed. And only empowered him even more among his constituents and among just the people in general in this country. So let's just look at this clip right here and see some of the derangement of Letitia James and her obsession with the president of the United States.
He's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Listen, we know he's crazy. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. We know he's out of control. We know he's losing it. We know his days are numbered and we will come together.
He's called me a racist.
We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale.
Thank you.
So there she is at the end.
And as you can see from that brief collection of clips of Letitia James, she in fact does suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. You know, it's a severe case also. Might be up there with Joy Reid. Right now she's really feeling it. I haven't heard from her except for a brief statement since the judge overturned the judgment that she had against Donald Trump for $350 million. That was $500 million today with interest. And you all remember how she tried to stop the president from filing an appeal because he needed like $1 billion bond or something like that, and the judge reduced it to allow him to file an appeal. This is just fitting. And let's just not forget also that as a result of this, Letitia James sort of gave the blueprint to Donald Trump as to the way to go after her, considering that she's lied on mortgage applications blatantly, even going as far as having a mortgage application that implied that her father was her husband just to get a better rate. You know, and also there's the blueprint to take down Lisa Cook, the trustee on the Fed, one of the Fed trustees or the board members. You know, Lisa Cook, no one would have ever thought when they was looking into the background of these Feds members who didn't want to cooperate with the president of how to take them down. No one would have thought to look at Lisa Cook lying about income and value of assets on mortgage applications. But Letitia James gave President Trump and the Department of Justice the blueprint as to how to take these people down. Because if you can't do it criminally, you still can use it to force them out or to fire them for being dishonest on certain applications and when they answer certain questions that were asked of them when they became, let's say, a Fed chair or an attorney general, such as Letitia James and Lisa Cook. I know they're both black women, and a lot of people are going to say that the president is attacking them because such. No, he's not. Lisa Cook is part of the group that doesn't want to cut interest rates, so he wants her out. And Letitia James has done everything she can to take down the president and has failed each and every step of the way. So now, let's just take a look at what the judges had to say and some of the things that President Trump's attorneys had to say when arguing this case before the Court of Appeals in New York that ultimately wiped out the $500 million judgment. But Letitia James can take a little bit of solace in that the court didn't overturn the ruling that the Trump organization was wrong, but it's like a empty ruling because the state's not getting the money. He's going to be able to do business here because it's the penalty phase that was overturned. All those penalties was considered too harsh. The money, the not doing business in New York, all those things were overturned. The court has to go back and pick other remedies that suit this situation. They can't just go overboard just because he's Donald Trump, just because he's the president. And the New York Court of Appeals signaled Thursday that they may be willing to limit the nine-figure judgment against former President Donald Trump and his business associates, questioning the New York Attorney General's office during a hearing and suggesting concerns that the litigation over whether Trump fraudulently misstated the value of his assets may have gone beyond what the state can legally do. All right, let's let that sink in for a minute. You know what the judge just said. He said that this possibly could be an illegal judgment amount that was awarded to the state of New York via the Attorney General's office and Letitia James. He's saying this might be far beyond the bounds, basically is what he's saying, of what the law states that can be imposed on President, or then, as they wanted to call him, Mr. Trump, because they gave him the ultimate disrespect and people refused to call him President Trump, especially after he had the election stolen from him. But because I've never heard anybody call Bill Clinton Mr. Clinton. I've always heard President Clinton, President Bush, President Carter, President Reagan, President Obama. I believe they're all the presidents that we've had since I've been alive. President Ford and President Nixon, they were alive during my lifetime. So I've never heard anybody refer to any of those guys as Mr. or as Clinton, Carter, Trump, Reagan. They always put president in front of it. Only Donald Trump is awarded that disrespect. So as it was when he, during the 4-year hiatus, everyone tried to go after him, including Letitia James. And President Trump streamed from the high heavens that all of this is illegal. All of this is not the American way. All of this, everything will be brought to light and he will be exonerated. And this is just the first step. And the judge basically said that President Trump was basically a victim of overzealous prosecution by Letitia James. You know, I know I'm adding my own legal terms here and stuff, but it is a fact that that's what the judge said it pretty much if you read between the lines. Now let's get back to a couple of the arguments that were made by Trump's attorneys. There has to be some limitation on what the Attorney General can do. By bringing this case, it upset a private business transaction between equally sophisticated partners in which the supposed victim had the power to conduct its own due diligence and never complain. The judges also questioned the nine-figure judgment against Trump and his associates, saying the immense penalty of this case is troubling, given the business Trump worked with left those transactions happy, and asking whether the nine-figure amount should have been calculated differently, which would have resulted in a lower amount. And as you can see by those arguments made by Trump's attorney and the comments of the court, this was basically a private business transaction that, if anything, there should have been lawsuits between the partners. It should have never been brought to the court. This was a witch hunt by New York and Letitia James in particular. It was a witch hunt by the Democrats. It was a witch hunt against President Trump. It didn't work. It empowered him. It made him more powerful. It might have put him over the top to win the election against Kamala Harris. But as you can see, Letitia James is down and out. She's done. This is it right here. Donald Trump has officially put her in her place. But you know, she's not giving up. She's still coming out on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it these days. She's still coming out and claiming victory because the entire decision wasn't overturned. But what good is that decision if you don't have that $500 million penalty against Trump? You know, what good is a decision? And then they go and slap him with a couple million penalty, which is probably like standard for a case like this. But they haven't brought a case like this in ages, so therefore nobody knows what a standard penalty is. This was something that was basically done to get after Donald Trump. It almost reminds me of you want to equate it to sports, when Allen Iverson was involved in some little kid dust-up in Newport News, Virginia back in the day, and they tried to ruin his career before it even started. And it was a law that was made for mobs and KKK, and they used it against this young black kid to try to ruin his career. Luckily it didn't, and just like Allen Iverson, Donald Trump is going to persevere, and he's going to end up being one of the greatest presidents in the history of this country. So, but let's just check out what Letitia James had to say as she tried to cling to the remnants of a victory that she still believes that she has. The First Department today affirmed the well-supported findings of the trial court. Donald Trump, his company, and two of his children are liable for fraud. The court upheld the injunctive relief one limiting Donald Trump and the Trump Organization's officers' ability to do business in New York. It should not be lost to history, yet another court has ruled that the president violated the law and that our case has merit. As you can see, she's clinging to straws. She's trying to pour victory out of the jaws of defeat, which the president did do. But he was already victorious because this was a bogus case. This was brought by Letitia James, the same woman who tried to take down Governor Cuomo at the time so she could become governor. Remember all those people that said Governor Cuomo sexually assaulted them? I mean, I'm not a big fan of Governor Cuomo myself, but I don't know, but I believe that he would never jeopardize his career just by touching a person inappropriately. And nobody said he pressured them. Nobody said that Governor Cuomo ever had sex with them or anything. It was just about like some public touching mostly and some implications of things he said at the office. Then all of a sudden the case got dropped. Letitia James realized everybody was in on her scheme to oust Governor Cuomo, and to become governor. And then Kathy Holcomb was the beneficiary of all that when Letitia James had to step away and said she couldn't run for governor because the gig was up. So, but she insists on pursuing this. But, you know, the only thing that she did was give Donald Trump and Department of Justice the blueprint to go after her for the mortgage fraud that she claimed President Trump did. But she did it herself. And also the blueprint to go after Lisa Cook, the Fed chair, who pretty much did the same thing and hasn't been able to come up with a good excuse as to why. But, you know, that's it for the first video on this channel, guys. Remember, I'm here to give away some prizes too, but I need subscribers to give them to. So please subscribe, like, and share this video, and I would greatly appreciate it. And just become my first subscriber. And, you know, if no one else subscribes, if I have a raffle and it's 1 of 1, who do you think is gonna win? You. All right. Until next time, I'm gonna give you guys a little message from a toddler. What a toddler once told me. When I told the toddler not yet, the toddler said, "Yes, yet. I want it right now." And that's where the name of this podcast came from. Thank you, Taylor. Till next time.